What happens when you take two guys from New York who absolutely love to talk and give them a license to rant? You get your hosts, John Peasy and Mikey Sausage.
Sausage.
I'm starting to really hate that video.
Already? It's a new.
Just the weight gain and weight loss and
right.
Old
well,
and yes.
Look, you and I could come on as like cats. They have all those great little things you put on Instagram and stuff. You and I could come on as like anybody we want and cut our heads off and look silly.
You want to put with a little avatar thing? What they go, emoji? I don't know what they call that.
Yeah, right.
I got that.
Right.
I got that. My kids made me one of them for my. You can makes a picture of yourself. You got one of them?
No.
Where like you can, like all the things you can make all these faces, your head blowing up, or the emojis. But you can make the emoji that looks like you. I don't know. I was just talking with a shoehorn. I was just talking with a shoehorn in my hand.
I don't like myself in person. I don't want to see what I look like as a cartoon. What's the difference?
Come on. You like
I'm not feeling well, Mikey. I got this cold going on, and it's like I'm all up here. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can't hear.
I don't know. Maybe you got the vid.
Not again. I had antibodies. I took a blood test 2 weeks ago. I still had them.
Doesn't matter. You can still get the vid. You know that. I mean, even vaccination, you get the vid. There's a certain percentage you can get it, and plus you're out all the time, like amongst them people. You're a man of the people. So
that's right. Bring it on. So bring it on.
It's all right though. I mean, you beat it once.
I'll beat it again.
Do it again.
That's right.
What's the worst that can happen? You die? That's a big deal.
Well, we really don't die. We found that out in our other interviews, right? So
yes, I know. What can you leave me all the information for your cryptocurrency wallets?
Well, matter of fact, I'm hoping that you die so I can leave all the cryptocurrency here. Yeah, we both sharing some cryptos.
Don't be a wise ass. I report you to the IRS.
I'm not hiding anything. I'll even tell you what we're buying: VeChain, crypto. What do we got? Ethereum, Bitcoin. But we're not here. Yeah. We should bring some. I have a guy I'd like to bring on. His name is DanTeachesCrypto.com. He's great. We should bring him on and talk about crypto. But
you didn't buy any Dogecoin from Elon?
No, I don't believe in it.
You see what happened? They pumped it because they thought he was going to talk about it on Saturday Night Live up to like 70-something cents, like it's 40-something. They're just going to pull a rug out on that one. That's just going to go.
Right. Somebody's going to get left holding the bag with the Dogecoin. Somebody's getting left. And by the way, if you think about it, a lot of investing is like this. They're basically what? They're people that you put money into something, hoping that somebody else will put money into that you could take money from them before they go cash out. It's basically robbing somebody. Basically, is investing.
There's an Italian name for that.
Is it called tidings?
Called Ponzi.
Ponzi. I have an uncle named Ponzi. Hey, this is going to be a lot of fun.
I know. I all of a sudden I feel like singing that song, Soul Sister, and I got them in my head playing over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't have the copyright.
Sing, I'll ruin everything. I know we can't play it on here. What?
No copyrights. We'll get in trouble.
Is it copyrighted?
Absolutely.
You think so? It's pretty old.
No, you have copyrights run like.
Well, I'm not saying the girls are old. I'm saying the song is old. Yeah.
No, the girls are very young. They look good. Actually, I can see them down below right now. I can see them sitting there. The two sisters. They're from Florida.
Orlando,
Florida. Which, by the way, is a really busy hub. Great place to live at this time in the world.
You get a discount if you go to Universal Studios because you're a resident.
That's right.
Did you know that, PZ? Did you know that?
I did know that. We all want to go to the Illuminati Mickey to see that.
No, I like Universal Studios.
I like Universal too. I've been there many times. Actually, but if I could do it all over again, I would have put it more in Bitcoin. Hey, let's bring them on. Enough about you and I and our silliness, right?
Okay.
You good with that?
I'm good with what?
Bringing them on.
What's the matter? You can't find the intro? Are you stalling? What's the problem?
No, I'm here. I got it. No, they're here before I even intro them. That's fine. So anyway, Soul Sisters Paranormal.
Hey, Leland, good one.
Yeah, Leland, once again, is premature.
Fucking knew that was coming.
That's okay. Just like so. Anyway, just so I don't do you guys due diligence and justice here. Thank you for coming on. This is Jenny and Kristy, and Jenny's on the left, Kristy's on the right. Am I correct right there? That's correct. And
yep.
Now these girls. So I know you're on the screen. I usually do this before you come on, but just to say, you began a group of sisters and friends, and you travel around the country doing haunted locations around the U.S. and private homes and investigate claims of paranormal activity. This is really cool. Twin sisters traveling around the country doing paranormal activity. That is really, really cool. And I love paranormal. I love anything that's other than normalcy. And this is really way out beat. And there's some video they're playing of you guys traveling around doing your investigations and things. Now, there's lots of people that do paranormal investigations, but there's not many twin sisters doing it. So tell us, how the heck do you start into paranormal hauntings? How do two girls from Florida decide, hey, let's go check out a creepy home?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here tonight. And well, for the way we started was actually a girls' trip. We have a younger sister, and we had a couple of friends, and we always meet up several times a year just to have girls' weekends. And one weekend in 2013, we were in Moundsville, West Virginia. And we had a friend of the family's that sat on the board of the West Virginia State Penitentiary. And he said, when you're here, why don't you just stay the night in the penitentiary and see what you find, if you can connect with any of our resident spirits. So we always said if we had the opportunity to conduct a paranormal investigation, we'd jump on it. And so we did that. And we found what we felt was compelling, unexplainable evidence. We had doors slamming, footsteps, men speaking when there was no men on the property. And so after that, we really decided we wanted to formalize Soul Sisters Paranormal and really try to, what we feel as best that we can, elevate this subculture into something a little bit more mainstream. So we came up again with Soul Sisters Paranormal, and we've been traveling around the country to historic and reportedly haunted locations.
So cool. Definitely so cool.
Don't those ghosts know that there's no men allowed on a girls' trip? Did they realize that?
You would think, yeah. But they actually interact with us. And as Kristy mentioned, we try to elevate the paranormal activity in terms of the research element and how we do investigations. We think we do it just a little bit differently than what you see on mainstream media. We both have advanced degrees, and so we bring a scientific background to that, a research stint, if you will, into the paranormal investigations that we do. And we've been pretty fortunate. There's guys, they come on out talking. So it's been fun.
It sounds creepy though, but first of all, you think, and I'm not being gender specific here, but generally speaking, more men are in the field of like looking at ghosts and creepy things. Usually, if you go with the old paradigm, women are like, oh, there's a mouse, they're frightened or whatever. You girls just the opposite. You're like, bring it on. We want to see the creepy people. Where are they? Come on and get us. Do you get frightened occasionally when you're doing these things? I have to imagine that you're getting frightened.
And not so much frightened. I would say we get startled. Absolutely. You can't go into an abandoned prison or an abandoned penitentiary or a sane asylum and not get startled when you hear a scream or a door slam. But for us, it's one of those things where we actually run towards it to see if we can figure out what's causing it, or come up with an environmental situation that we can essentially debunk if we can. And then if we can't, then we just would describe it as unexplainable. But, as far as running out screaming, we've never done that.
That would be me and you, PC.
I think so. I'd be running out of screaming.
I'd be running right the hell out. Get out. I'd be running.
You'd be listening to the ghost. Hey, Sausage, have you ever had a paranormal experience like these ladies? Have you ever actually had something freaky happen to you like that?
I didn't, but when I was like, I'd be 16 because I had my own room in the house still. I was dating a girl, and the girl was like I was maybe like 18. I could have been older because my grandfather passed away. It's like a year after my grandfather passed away, so I had to be like 18. And she was in my room, and she said she saw my grandfather in the mirror, and like she bugged out, and she left the house. But myself, I've had like weird feelings, and I know my mom had something once. One time we went up to Pennsylvania we were looking at a piece of property. I think I told the story before. So long story short, my father wanted to buy this piece of property in Pennsylvania. When you looked out, you could see like 5 states. And all of a sudden, my mother started getting very ill, throwing up. She says, you got to get me out of here. You got to get me out of here. And I told you, we found out later on, it was like an Indian burial ground that they moved bodies off of. And I saw my mother was sensitive.
Indian burial ground. Why is it always an Indian burial ground?
I don't know, but I would go. Like I said, we want to go to the other house there. We interviewed the other young lady. I would go to that penitentiary or some insane asylum or something like that. I would sleep there and check it out. I mean, I don't think it would bother me that much, but it'd be cool. Like, I mean, girls, do you ever feel things like touching you or like wind or you feel that?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So when we first started, again, as I said before, it is one of those things that is pretty startling when you first experience it. But when we go into these locations, we actually try to set some boundaries. We say you can't physically harm us, but if you want to touch us, pull our hair, touch our pant leg to let us know that you're here and to acknowledge us, then we welcome that. So there's been several occasions where, especially when we are trying to interact with child spirits, where we felt, our pant leg being touched, our hair being pulled, somebody grabbing our hand like they're trying to get our attention. So I wouldn't say it's routine, but it definitely happens on these investigations.
So you say with children. So do you find, so let me see. So let me see if I can find the words. So with children versus adults, is the, I don't know how to say haunting, is the experience like a childlike behavior as opposed to adult? They act like children? Yeah.
They do. Yeah. In fact, the best example of this, I think, is the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. And when we went there was claims of a child, in fact, multiple children that were in that location. And so to answer your question, it was really interesting because we have some blow up balloons. We've got flashlights. We heard giggling. And so, yeah, Mikey, there's this interaction that we get where the children are behaving in childlike manners. They're kicking around toys. We bring different trigger items that we call them, toys and here again, balloons and music boxes and those types of things. And so it really is a different interaction that we have when we think that there's a child spirit.
You know what I'm thinking too? Isn't that disturbing though? Mike, just think about how disturbing it is to hear dead children versus like if you're in a prison, you got a guy that was a really nasty person, he died and whatever, and he's an evil person or whatever, it's one thing. But how disturbing is it to hear little children that may be passed on and is somehow lost in this realm of in between lives or whatever?
Yeah, but so
it is a little bit.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it is to your point, John. It is a little bit different. As Jenny said, we sit down on the floor, we interact with them as children. We try to get down on their level, and I think we've been very successful in capturing some compelling things because of that.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be disturbing for me to see a child. And there's another question, Lisa. What about you guys? Where do you come off with the impressions of the travel, this travel between these realms? I mean, where do you see the spiritual realm? How do you describe it to you between physical life to where you catch these people and interact with them and where they're going next? How do you see the spiritual life between the two of you? Because you have had all these experiences.
Well, for us, we do come from a very religious background, so we do believe that there is a heaven that's after this. But we also think that the spirits that we're interacting with when we go to these investigations did have that human experience, right? We're trying to communicate with those that lived and then died. And for some reason, they're closer to what we'll call the veil than other spirits who ascend automatically. So for some reason, whether it be unfinished business or they want to give a loved one a sign or they're stuck for some reason, those are the spirits that we're interacting with and connecting to. So we do think that they're just a little bit closer to the veil than those who have ascended to whatever the next realm is. And to build on what Kristy's saying, there's also what we refer to as residuals. And it's almost like the location keeps playing a situation or an incident on a loop. And so we may get sounds that have no bearing or interactions that have no bearing in the moment. So we're getting reactions to questions and those types of things that don't make sense. And so it's almost like the location is is acting on this loop or almost like a record. Then we have more in the moment or live interactions where we're getting direct responses to questions that we're asking, and so the answers in that moment make sense. So it just it's interesting. And to Kristy's point, I think there's just a thin separation between where we're at in the physical realm right now and what we refer to as heaven.
See, you guys said there's some places that you go to, there's a residual sound or noise or that plays over and over and over again. So that means that this energy gets trapped there and plays itself out like a recording, I presume. Okay, great. But,
absolutely.
And then you're saying that this veil is very thin. So when you see a child, going back to child, when the child is maybe trapped and doesn't know they're dead or trying to interact with people and are you able to help them get to the other side?
Typically, that's not what we do. We go in and we investigate these locations, whether it be what we call a commercial location, such as Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary or Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, or a private business or residence owner that will call us in. And so what we feel that our job is to go in and actually research these locations and either debunk or verify paranormal or compelling paranormal evidence. So for us personally, we don't try to cross something over or try to get rid of a spirit or an entity. If a homeowner or a business owner decides that that's what they want to do, then we have people that we will call in to assist us in that case. So a priest or somebody like that, a medium, a spiritual medium, or a psychic that will come in and help us to do that. But personally, we will not cross any spirit over.
Wow. See, that's interesting.
Well, I'm sure it's easy. I'm sure people that charge money. I get the penitentiary charge money for people to come there.
Yes. So we'll either pay a fee to go in and investigate these locations, or they'll call us and say, hey, would you like, with our compliments, to come and investigate our location? In fact, we were just up in Milwaukee. We came back yesterday and we were investigating a bar up in Milwaukee, and they asked us to come and investigate that location. So it's kind of a 50-50.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off. I didn't know you were still so like the prison, do they allow regular people to come in there and stay over? And they charge them, right?
Correct.
Yeah. See, PZ, they wouldn't want to get rid of the ghost. They wouldn't make any money over there. Right? I mean, you might
look at it. But another thing too is I keep getting hooked on the kid thing, because I think it's disturbing to hear a little kid kind of like a spirit. It kind of bothers me on some level. Just think about this. Suppose you had, God forbid, you had a child that was dead, and these young ladies go in and are able to communicate with them in real time in this trapped environment that they're in spiritually. Wouldn't you want to pay somebody to come in and release your child from this trapped space of etherealness that they're trapped into, like, trapped? I mean, think about that. There's going to be a business for that. I mean, if I was a dad and had a kid that didn't live, I'd be like, all right, how much is it? All right, take care of this kid. Get them to the God side, please.
Hey, have you girls, when you went to this penitentiary or another location, insane asylum, were you able to confirm anybody that contacted you that was actually an inmate there, or in the insane asylum?
Absolutely. We've had that happen on several occasions. Back to John's question about the child, we were at the Exchange Hotel in Gordonsville, Virginia, and this was a hotel that was built pre-Civil War, and then during the Civil War was actually recommissioned into a Civil War hospital, and it saw both Union and Confederate soldiers. So there's been over 750 verified deaths in this location. So we were investigating this location, and one of the reports is that there's a child named Jeremiah that is reported to haunt this location. And so when we went, we actually sat on the floor and we were rolling a ball back and forth and asking him to light up some of our equipment, depending on who had the ball. So if the ball was in front of me, I asked him to light up what we call a K2 meter. I asked him to light up the K2 meter in front of me, and it happened. And then when I rolled it to my investigator, Kim, and asked to light up the K2 meter in front of her. That happened as well. And then we also caught a child's voice. Again, there's no children on the property physically. We caught a child's voice on one of our voice recorders saying, "Hi, this is my bed." So we were able to verify that in our belief that was Jeremiah that we were communicating with. And there's been several instances where we'll go into like the West Virginia State Penitentiary, and we're pretty confident that we were talking to an inmate there by the name of Red Snyder. So there's been several instances where we've been able to, through our equipment and through questioning, feel pretty confident that we're connecting with the spirit that we're in there trying to connect with. Mm-hmm. And some will just tell us outright, what their names are. I think the biggest example of that, or the best example of that, is when we were back again in the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. We were asking, "Is your name James?" And then we heard a voice on our recorder that said, "No, Jim." So, almost types of correction. My name is James, but I go by Jim, type of a feel. And we get that routinely.
Frightening. So that's frightening to me.
In this penitentiary, did you come across any real mean people? Like real nasty?
Evil.
Not so much what we would call evil or demonic, for another term. Obviously, the penitentiaries house worst of the worst, right? They're bad people in life. They're probably going to be bad people in death. But when we go into these locations, as I said before, we really try to set boundaries. So we'll go in and say, "This is who we are. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell your story and the history of this location. You're not allowed to physically hurt us." And so because of that, and also because I think we're an all-female team, we go in with a different sense of empathy, if you will. And so I think because of that, we've been very fortunate not to experience anything that would be considered evil or dark or demonic. Now, we've had some people that will tell us to get out, and in which case we leave that area. We tell them, "We'll leave your space, whether it be a cell or a cell block. We'll leave your space and we'll go to another part of the location. But we'll leave you to that if that's what you feel you want." But so we've had several instances where we've heard "get out" or something like that, and we just simply leave that space. And to build on that, I think it's because we bring that female sense here, again, to use the word Kristy used with is empathy. We go in and we tell the location and any entities that may be there, we're really there to tell their story. We're there to respect the space. We're there to respect the location, respect them as they want to be remembered, and to tell their story. So we don't play a lot of gotcha type games, if you will. We're very honest and authentic in everything that we do in terms of the evidence that we capture. We just run it and put the videos together and let the audience make up their mind in terms of what they hear and see and sense in that evidence. But every place that we've been at, or every entity that we've been fortunate to capture, have actually been nice, for lack of a better word. And so I think it's because we bring that level of respect to it.
And the feminine spirit must be great too. But let me understand something. When you ladies are actually interacting with these people, you said before you put up a wall or standard of how it has to be presented. What gives you this protection? What makes it assured that you get this protection, that you're not going to be hurt or attached to later and traveled with, or evil things could happen to you from this interaction? You're making it sound as though like you lay down the line and everything's okay. But what assures you that that line is not crossed?
Well, not so much. I mean, when we go in, we say a prayer of protection. When we come out, we say a prayer of protection. And for us, I think it's that belief. Honestly, I don't think there's ever anything that's 100% assured in this. But for us, so far we've had a 100% success rate with what we do and how we do it. Back to Jenny's point, I think when we go in and we treat the entities with respect as the humans that they once were, because we all want to be recognized and acknowledged. And I think the same thing is true with the spirit world. And so when we go in and we give that sense of respect, I think we're very fortunate to get that respect, if that makes sense. And so for us, it has been one of those where, we've had that success rate with nothing has followed us home. We've never been physically attacked. We don't go in looking for evil or demonic. Again, we just really want to tell the story of the location and any entity that may want to communicate with us.
See,
how's that, Peasy? Two women who can get men to listen and obey what they say.
They're doing good. They're doing very good.
I'm scared already.
You know what what is interesting here too is that well, let's go back a little bit. Let's go all the way back in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you girls were young girls, and what childhood experience?
Wait. What are you trying to say? They're old now? Are you
No,
trying to say they're girls now?
no, they look fine.
It's just a short.
I'm just wondering
ways
what childhood experiences led
Very
you to that path that you're in right now. What childhood could you have that leads you to this direction?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we had a fantastic childhood. So we have fantastic parents, fantastic siblings. And so we really had a fun childhood growing up. We didn't have anything that was crazy or abnormal. We had a very nice childhood growing up. And so, but as Kristy mentioned, we've always been Christians. We've always been believers, and we've been fortunate enough to maybe have a different sense about us, perhaps, so that when my parents bought a property here close to Orlando, just outside, it came with a really interesting little house on it. It was a rock home. It was built in 1933, and it was verified that there was the former owner had passed in that house. And so in that house, we always experienced different knocks and different feelings and those types of things. So, we just got a little digital voice recorder and started kind of picking things up. And so that was really, I think, the first leap into this. It wasn't anything formal or anything that we built even as a hobby. But then when we had the opportunity to go to Mountainville State Penitentiary, we kind of got ourselves hooked in it. And just the reactions that we were getting on very minimal types of equipment, we thought was compelling enough and at least fun enough for us to continue and see what other places are out there. And we always had that, we would watch the popular media shows, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures and stuff. And we'd always say to ourselves, well, why didn't they ask this question? Or why didn't they use this technique? And we said to ourselves, if we ever had that chance, that opportunity, that we would try to do things a little bit differently. And I think we have. We've really kind of, to what we believe, put a different spin and technique into paranormal investigations.
Yeah, apparently you guys, you really actually have done that, Hey, tell us about the Lizzie Borden house. I know you guys slept over at the Lizzie Borden house. You actually slept there. Mike, can you imagine me and you going to Lizzie Borden house and sleeping there? Come on. So tell us, how was that experience?
Leland, are you saying that I'm out of focus, Leland? Let me interrupt you a second.
Yeah, Leland's telling you you're out of focus. There you go.
Better?
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, no.
Well, you're still a little out of focus, actually. No, you know what it is? My eyes are out of focus.
I don't know. I thought I was pretty good. I don't know that.
No, he's right.
Nobody's name up.
You do look a little blurry. You look a little ghosting, if you will.
All right, go ahead. Talk. I'll fix it while you're talking.
It's not us, I promise.
It's not them. So tell us about the Lizzie Borden house. You guys went to the Lizzie Borden. You slept over. What was that experience like?
The Lizzie Borden house was fantastic. The one thing that's really great about what we do is we get to go to these locations that not a lot of people get to experience, and we get to have a very tactile experience with history. So the Lizzie Borden house, the St. Augustine Lighthouse, prisons, penitentiaries and such. And so for the Lizzie Borden house, this was definitely on our bucket list of places that we really wanted to get to. So we were fortunate enough to get the entire house to ourselves for the evening. And so it was Jenny and myself, our younger sister, Michelle, our investigator Cara, and we collaborated with Miranda Young from Ghost Biker Explorations. And so there were 5 females in the house for the entire evening. And it was actually a very unique experience. Again, we had no males with us that night, but yet we were capturing male voices. We were hearing knocks and bangs. We were picking up children's voices as well. I think one of the most interesting things was we were all in this room, which was in the upstairs attic area, where the maid Maggie, that was her room when it was the Lizzie Borden house. So we were all sitting in there. The door was closed. All of us were there. We were, playing with some K2 meters, trying to get them to go off. And so Miranda had put another K2 meter on the floor. And as she was putting it down, she said, "Here's another one for you to play with." And outside the door, a man's voice said, "Ignore them." And we all heard it in the moment. And everybody that's in the house is in this room. So we don't understand, why there's a male voice outside this room saying, "Ignore them." And then another interesting thing that happened was we had set up some equipment in the downstairs parlor area, and before we actually formally started the investigation, Jenny and Cara were just talking back and forth, to each other. And we had been to the Villisca Axe Murder House earlier that year, and so Cara and Jenny were discussing the differences between the Villisca Axe Murder House and the Lizzie Borden Axe Murder House. And Cara just made the comment. She said that would be a horrible way to go. And the voice recorder picked up a male's voice saying it was. And again, that was extremely telling to us because, this is something that's intelligent, listening to this conversation and reacting and giving us, a verbal indication that they heard it. So the Lizzie Borden house was absolutely phenomenal.
So now, wait, hold on a second, PZ. How long are you girls doing this?
We started in 2013.
Okay, so from 2013 till today, has there been change in any equipment that has made things better?
We have, yes. Our first investigation, we just had a couple of digital cameras and some voice recorders. Now we have a pretty big arsenal. Paranormal equipment is kind of like getting a tattoo. Once you get one, you just got to kind of get some more. So we have a lot of voice recorders, night vision video cameras, equipment that we call REM pod or K2 meters. They're designed to measure electromagnetic energy. We have something called a spirit box. That is an AM/FM radio that's been modified to sweep through frequencies. So we have specialized equipment, but then we also try to take items that are germane to the location, which we call trigger items. So if we're in a penitentiary, we'll take, handcuffs or whiskey or cigarettes, or, if we're in the Lizzie Borden house, we'll take children's toys or something like that to try to get an interaction with the spirits that are there.
Are you familiar, Mike, with the spirit box? Because there was a guy I used to watch on YouTube with the spirit box that was actually frightening me at one point. I think you girls probably know who I'm talking about. I don't want to bring up his name and have you judge him, but he made all those different spirit boxes, and he would go and record all of his interactions with people. And at one point, he shut everything down because he got frightened. He said he was getting attached to. You know what I'm speaking about, right? A bald-headed guy. Yeah.
Is there one frequency that it's on, or is it many frequencies?
So what it does is it's an AM/FM radio, and when you turn it on and you hit the sweep button, it sweeps through all of the frequencies of the AM and FM cycle. So when you turn it on and you hit sweep, it goes like it's sweet, and you hear that. And so the idea is that the spirits can use that white noise to communicate with us. It's a small radio. It fits in the size of my hand. The range to pick up of those frequencies is very small. And for us, we've had several instances where we feel we've gotten compelling evidence. We were investigating a funeral home in Mississippi, and we said, "Can you say one of our names?" And the spirit box said, "Jenny." It came through crystal clear. We were investigating the Ma Barker house in Central Florida. We've been the only team to investigate this location, and this is where Ma and Fred Barker were killed by the FBI in 1935. And we had the spirit box, and it was running. And theoretically, because it's going so fast through these frequencies, you shouldn't hear a complete phrase. But when I asked the question, "What happened in this room?" through the spirit box came the response, "They murdered us, we the ones dead." And that is very telling to us, because you shouldn't have that, right? The chances of all those radio frequencies seeking up to make that phrase is very, those are astronomical.
Oh, so they can only give you one word at a time, usually, or quickly, or
even less. Yeah. Typically, you'll get one word. Getting a phrase again is extremely rare, and that's what made the Ma Barker house so compelling. And everyone that we play that clip for, or that watches our video, it's very unexplainable. It's unexplainable how this man's voice is coming through this radio as it's sweeping through frequencies, and we get the full phrase, "They murdered us, we the ones dead." It's just, and you can hear the frequencies behind that phrase still going,
Wow,
it's creepy.
So, yeah, pretty. I don't know. Maybe they got. I don't even know how that works. But if you can't get phrases like that, so nobody can explain that, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's supposed
That's
to be
right.
them.
At least
I have
for
an
us.
app. I have an app on my phone called Ghost Radar. I don't know if you guys have
it's
seen that
fake.
before. Ghost
I've heard
Radar.
of that. Yes.
You can see that. Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
It's fake.
Yeah.
It's fake. It's fake.
Yeah, it actually is. Apparently, it says it has words pop up, and it also tells you like where it has energy around you. So if you turn that on like 2 o'clock in the morning, everyone's sleeping, nobody's around your house, you're just sitting there by yourself, and you hear beep 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 beep, and words come up like I don't know, popcorn. You're like, what the hell is that? I can't believe that you guys are not. I keep calling you guys, you ladies. I can't believe. You're not. You don't get. You said you get startled, but not frightened, and maybe because it's your religious background. But Mike, if you and I were in a place and we heard "get out," I'd be out of that door in a second. I'd rather fight. I'd rather punch somebody in the face at a bar and fight like a man than have to deal with something from.
I don't know. I guess the only thing I'd be worried about is if they can really do anything to me. So, like, if they couldn't really do anything to me, I really wouldn't care. But like. We've talked to many people say people can attach stuff, people can, evil people can attach to you or do bad things to you. So I definitely want to piss nobody off. So
yeah, which that leads to, can they not only attach, can they actually physically manipulate you to do things? Like, in other words, have you possession?
That would be a pretty good thing. Go rob a bank. I mean, the guy I was in a text me. He took over my body.
It wasn't me. It was the ghost.
I think that's
the
a
ghost
Shaggy
defense.
song.
The good old ghost defense, Mikey. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen any of that before where people were actually attached in that way, that they were being possessed?
We've heard stories of that in different, paranormal circles. For us, it really comes down to what we feel is the right intention. And a lot of the people that we know in the paranormal community, first and foremost, it's all about the history of these locations and making sure that these places are preserved for their place in history. And then it becomes about the paranormal. And so going in with that right intention, I think is really what drives us and really what prevents us from getting that attachment. For us, we don't go in and do things like seances or using a Ouija board or anything like that. Not that we feel that those are negative, but because they have a negative connotation behind them. And so I think when you go in with the intention of conjuring something or manipulating something or trying to call out some type of an evil, then you may get that response. You may get a possession. You may get a demonic entity. But again, for us, we go in with the intention of not doing that specifically. And we always say that we're here to tell your story, and we want to tell the story of the location, the history of the location. And I think because of that, we've been very fortunate, and those that we know have been very fortunate to not get a possession or deal with anything demonic. I know you see a lot of demonic things on popular television shows, but they're trying to build an audience base to get ratings. For us, that's really not what we're about. And so we don't have to sensationalize that.
Do you find that most of the paranormal activity or ghosts or whatever are from years and years ago? Or have you found anything that was more current? Like you said, the Civil War, for instance, in one. Have you found anybody from the 50s or the 70s or the 60s or it's like that?
Absolutely.
Mike, good question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so it runs the gamut, Mikey. So one of the best investigations, or the one that I really liked the best, was Fort Mifflin. And so that fort, and to use Kristy's term in terms of the tactile piece of history, that was a revolutionary fort that's still active today. And so all of the wars that fort has seen has been incredible. And so when we were in there, we were getting feedback from the entities saying Lincoln was their president, giving us their inmate numbers, really interacting from a more historic perspective. The Ma Barker House, the 1930s. So we were getting hauntings from those particular eras. We've had some from the lighthouse. The St. Augustine Lighthouse was a little bit more recent. So it really runs the gamut in terms of the eras of the history that we're in.
So what would you say is the closest to our era that you've experienced as a person? What year, if you could, about? Do you know?
Well, we investigated the Halesbar Dam, which is in operation until the 1960s. So we did experience paranormal activity there. We were the Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary, that was in operation until 2009, and so we had a lot of activity there. I'd say that was probably, if not our most active, probably our second most active location that we've investigated. West Virginia State Penitentiary was in operation until the late 1990s, and so we've had a lot of paranormal activity there. So it really does kind of, to Jenny's point, run the gamut. And so it's not just those that were from the late 1800s. You know, we've been able to capture spirits, what we feel are communicate with spirits that, you know, are in the 90s and the early 2000s. Absolutely.
So really my follow-up to that is where I was going is, have you had contact with a spirit that you were able to follow up with their family after that maybe still be alive?
Well, not so much a family outside of ours. I'll give you an example that actually happened to us. This was in 2016. I was extremely close with my Nana, and our granddaddy died in 1986. And in 2016, my Nana, she was 93. She was still active. She was driving. She had 2 boyfriends, neither knew of each other. Nana was very spry at 93. And so this was in 2016. And I had this very vivid dream that my granddaddy came to me and said, Nana will be getting into an accident and I'm waiting for her. And so I didn't really know what to do with that information. I told my parents about it. And about 2 weeks later, Nana was in an accident and she never really recovered from that. She went into hospice, and about 5 weeks later, she ended up passing. And about 3 hours after she passed, I looked at Jenny and I said, I know where she's going. She's going to the house and she's going to meet up with Granddaddy in the spot where I had that dream, or that was in my dream. And so we took some equipment. We had 2 K2 meters, again, which measures electromagnetic energy, and one is gray and one is black. And we were asking questions and saying, Nana, if you're here, can you just light up this gray meter? And the gray meter lit up. Can you just light up the black meter? The black meter lit up. And through a series of questions, we were able to determine what we felt. Nana met up with Granddaddy. And so just to verify that, we went back a week later, stood in the exact same spot with the exact same pieces of equipment and asked the exact same questions, and we weren't getting anything. So literally, 3 hours after my Nana passed, I think we communicated with her. So that's a very personal story. And I think that's the most compelling one that I can explain, that I can tell you about having direct contact.
So what you're saying is that at first she contacted and the next week they were gone.
Correct. Right. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, because I'm saying you have a Christian background, so I'm assuming that your grandmother had the same type of background. If they instilled that in your parents, your mom, your dad, or whoever their mother was. So basically, you think that they moved on to wherever they went, and that
correct.
Have you tried again, or you only tried that one time?
No, we've tried a couple of times after that. And again, it's just, we feel that, there was nothing holding them here anymore. There's no unfinished business. They weren't stuck. There was nothing that would keep them closer to the veil or earthbound, if you will. So they just ascended to whatever's next. And so that to us was extremely peaceful. And, like I said, it just kind of is an example of, these aren't just spirits from the 1800s. We were able actually to communicate what we feel was communicate with her after about 3 hours after she passed.
Wow. Yeah, I was just thinking about this, what John said is that if someone was stuck, get someone to help them. So I was just thinking, like, if someone died in the 80s and 90s and it was somebody's dad, and and he said, my name is Jim so and so, and then you were able to find their children or whatever, and that'd be interesting. Like, imagine that someone came and said, hey, we spoke to your father. He's, you knew your father was in this prison or something. And then all of a sudden.
Yeah, what I keep thinking as I hear this is my first thought was being that these girls had so much of these experiences, what is the process of death according to the way you see it, being that you've done all these, expeditions into talking to dead people? That's the question number one. But question number two also is, you said, well, they moved on because there's nothing here to hold them there. I keep hearing that people, when they pass away, you usually see them in the first 3, 4, 5 days of their death pretty quickly. They're standing at your bedside. You see them in the mirror. You hear them in their voice when you're in the shower. And I don't know if that's the person missing them, or is it actually because that person's in this transitional position, trying to tell them everything is okay, it's all going to be good? So I guess it's twofold question: is what is your what do you see it as the process of death to the other side? And then the other question is, do you think it's true that when you immediately pass, that there's much more of a meeting up of life and death with your relatives?
Well, first I'd say that this experience that we've been going through, I think has, at least for me, has validated my Christian faith. I think it's made it deeper for me. It's more personal. I think that it validates that this isn't the only chapter that we get to experience, this physical life on earth. So I think that's the answer to your first question, in the sense of there's this I think a deeper understanding that at least I've developed personally, and I think Kristy might echo that, in the sense of just the nature of the transition of death is that your physical body succumbs and your spirit moves on. What those transition points are, I think, is certainly up for debate and speculation, because nobody knows until we make that transition ourselves. But for me personally, I don't know if I believe in the heaven as being separate, or that separate in terms of what we might visualize in our head. There's earth and then heaven, hell, if you believe that. But I think maybe death is a little bit closer. The spiritual realm is a little bit closer than what we may profess it to be. And so when we have these interactions, it could be that they're just the spirit that is here and is willing to interact, or is closer to interact, or is wanting to interact with us in a different way. And there's some that may, step back a little bit further and don't want to have those pieces of communication. So I can't profess to know the phases of transition, but I definitely think that there's an element of the spiritual realm that stays a little bit closer for a little bit longer than what we may be taught in the Christian faith.
Do you think everyone is sinking to their own level of spirituality or energy?
Well, and that's an interesting way to say that. Obviously, if you believe that we're made up of energy and energy cannot be created or destroyed, we have to go somewhere. So whether, to Jenny's point, that's immediate, is again up for speculation. And so for us, I think that, going back to the Nana and Granddaddy situation, I think we were meant to have that experience again to bring us peace of mind. And I think that's what a lot of people, when they experience something right away, like in the first day or second day or third day, it's either to bring that peace of mind that, hey, we're okay, we've made this transition and we're moving on. I think that's a lot of when you have those experiences that are immediate. I think that's the reason why, to bring that peace that everything is okay, that I've moved on, or that an entity may present itself to you a little bit later when you need it to. So that's another theory as well, that when you need that moment, when you need that recognition that your loved one is okay, that's when you see that spirit as well. To Jenny's point, we're all dealing with theory on what happens next, but that's kind of the premise that we work on.
I'm just thinking we just glossed and skipped over probably the wildest thing of the whole thing is your grandfather saying that your grandmother's going to pass away. She's going to die, and how she's going to die. So, I mean, do we all have a death date? I mean, is it that's Peasy, you think about it, that's wild.
Yeah, my first thought is, don't talk to her dead grandfather.
I'm just saying, I don't understand. I mean, do we all have a time and that we're gonna go? I mean, look, that's the age-old question, right? What happens when you die? I mean, that's everybody's biggest thing. And being Christians, you're taught to have faith, right? So no one's going to prove to you that there is a place you're going to, there isn't a place. They're saying have faith. So everybody then says, well, if there really was something, someone would come back and say something to us that, hey, there's a heaven, be good. Or, hey, there's nothing. Well, I'm just running around in a prison. I can't go nowhere. I'm stuck, so. But the fact that I don't know how I would have handled that. Hey, your grandmother's going to die in 2 weeks in a car accident. I mean, that's a heavy thing to put on somebody.
It is.
Yeah.
Right?
It was an interesting dream, probably one of the most vivid I've ever had. And he said, you know, your Nana will be in an accident, and you'll be getting a call soon. Is how he said it. And I think that when you go into that deep sleep, especially after what we do and the places that we've been and the spirits that we've communicated with, you know, when you go into that sleep state, that's your most vulnerable state, right? So that's when you're the most open to receive these messages. And I think because everybody in the family knew how close I was to Nana. I mean, I'm named after her. So I was extremely close with her. I think, you know, I was able to have that awareness that something is going to happen, and, you know, to be prepared for it. And so I think I actually take it as a huge blessing that I was able to receive that gift. So, you know, it's one of those things that it was just a message that I feel that I was meant to receive.
But didn't you want to tell you not to drive? Didn't you like say, don't drive? I got this bad message.
Well, he never said car.
Bad? Oh, he never said
no,
car
he never said, he never said car accident. He said, your Nana will be in an accident and you'll be getting a call soon. And what happened is she actually fell down. She tripped on a rug and she fell down and ended up breaking her hip, and it developed into MRSA, and that's kind of how she went. And so, I mean, I told my parents, but it was one of those things that, you know, I can tell Nana, hey, you need to be careful, but, you know,
right.
She couldn't sit on the couch all day. yeah.
No,
but
I understand it better now. Yeah, I thought it was like he told you specifically what was going to happen. I'd be like, I'll be taking the keys away. You know, like, I mean,
right.
That's crazy.
Right.
Well, you know, but you have to say too, it's normal for an elderly person to trip, break their hip. I mean, that's a lot of people's hips get weakened as they age, and they trip and they lose their balance, because as you age, your balance goes out. All these things start happening through aging. So what happened to her is not uncommon. It's a very common thing. Right. So you just had a dream because you saw that she was becoming frail. I mean, you could put logic on top of this over and over again.
She said she was pretty active and had boyfriends running around 90 feet driving a car. So she wasn't like this little frail little thing. You know?
No, she wasn't. She's
like one of these tough old birds, you know, like one of them.
Right. She was. Yeah. But to your point, John, and that's exactly what we tried to do. We try to bring logic into everything that we do in the paranormal activities or in the paranormal realm. So as I mentioned before, we hold advanced degrees. And so we have that scientific method. And so when we put our equipment in each of these locations and we review that evidence, we have body cameras, police issued body cameras, that we can timestamp exactly where we are. We know who's moving what, who's saying what, who's in a location in a specific room. And so if we have any question at all about something that we pick up, we go, you know, hey, Kristy, did you happen to say something at this time or whatever? And if we can't debunk, and that's what we go in trying to do. If we can't debunk something, then we lay it out there and say, this is something that we cannot explain. We don't profess that a place is haunted. We don't profess that this certain entity is here or there. But we say, this is something we can't explain. When we're catching male voices, when we're capturing male voices on our recorders and there are no males with us, that is something that we cannot explain. When we have no children with us and we're capturing children's giggles and, them saying different things in children's voices, that's something that we can't explain. And so that's what we put out to the audience on the videos, and we let the audience make their own determination. So we're not here to convince anybody of anything, or to try to persuade anybody of anything. It really is, we're trying to go in there with a scientific method and really be logical in thinking through this. So when you say that you could absolutely add logic onto a dream and then the subsequent situations and circumstances after it, sure, absolutely. But the way that Kristy personally interpreted it was a message, and that brought her comfort. So
great point. I look at it as like a pessimistic way, right? So there has to be some type of radio that you could transmit on a frequency that box would pick up if someone wanted to mess with that box. And like just say Jim or Jim. I'm sure technology's there, right? So someone could really have a fake haunted place.
And you're absolutely right. And we get that question a lot. Do we feel that the location, because they want to get money and revenue, will make things up. But for us, the way we deploy our equipment, we'll go in and we'll do a sweep of the location, and the owners or the people that are there, a lot of the time they'll just hand us the key and say, lock up when you're done. So we are the only people on the property. They don't know where we're going to deploy our equipment. They don't know what questions we're going to ask. That they don't know, again, some of the techniques that we use. And so that really does make it compelling. But to your point, is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. And, again, we like to have that dialogue. But, like Jenny said, if we're in a location, we ask a question, we get a male's voice in response just out of the air. Again, I can't explain that, but if somebody can come back and say, well, we have proof that it's this, then again, we want to have that dialogue, because again, we don't want to put anything out there that's going to tarnish our reputation or our name, for sure. Mm-hmm. So, to your point, there is a possibility, sure, but so far we haven't found it.
And Mike, I think one of the things that we really try to do is we try to get multiple pieces of equipment to help validate. So we try to get the spirit box, which was the FMAM frequency, a piece of equipment, an EMF meter, a REM pod, a digital camera, and a voice recorder. Right? If we get multiple pieces of evidence to sync up, we think that is actually helping to validate our argument. But yeah, could it be something different? Absolutely.
Mike, you know what I want to do? I want to like be in their house and then run up behind Jenny and Kristy and go, boo! And they go, gotcha. They won't be startled. Boo! You know what I'm thinking here too? As you're saying this may sound like a movie, but I don't know, maybe from watching movies or whatever, they always turn around and say, they go and people investigate a house and they go, all right, we checked everything around the house. I think what's happening, your 14-year-old daughter is producing this paranormal activity in the house. Tell us about that. I hear this a lot. Is that really true? Does a girl or boy coming into teenagehood create paranormal activities?
We've actually heard that theory that it's called create your own haunting. And that is a theory that is in the paranormal community. We've heard of experiences like that. To us, we have not felt that we've created our own haunting. To Jenny's point, there is multiple pieces of equipment in most of these locations that we go to, multiple pieces of equipment that are picking up, those unexplained things. We see a shadow figure running across the cell block. At the same time, it's running through our laser grid. We're seeing it with our eyes, and we're picking up a voice on our voice recorder. That's just building our arguments, building our case. That is something unexplainable here. To your point, I have heard that, the create our own haunting, but we have never personally felt that we've experienced it.
Do you have to add any type of power or energy to help these people communicate? Because I heard that they use energy, obviously. Batteries, so power, electric power, whatever. I mean, and didn't someone say, Beezy, they added some type of power there to help them? I don't remember something like that.
Well, I've always heard that their equipment gets drained. If you hear these people say, yeah, I walked in, all my batteries are drained. So obviously they have to use the physical energy of our realm to pull energy from, or people to pull energy from. That leads to the next question too. You guys ever come out of this thing? You guys, I keep saying, you ladies keep coming out of this feeling drained as well. Are they using you for energy?
Yeah. Well, they could be, but that's kind of a loaded question, because we typically go into a location around 6 o'clock in the evening, and we're up at till 8 o'clock the next morning. So we stay up at these locations for long periods of times, 8 to 12 hours. So it could be just us draining ourselves, but there could be the opportunity where there's paranormal that's draining us. But we have had experiences where our equipment goes like this. So brand new batteries, open the pack and put them in our equipment, and the next second it's gone. So we've definitely had those experiences as well. The other interesting kind of theory that's out there is that the paranormal can pull from the atmosphere or the environment. If there's a lightning storm or a rainstorm, even some of the minerals in the earth, the energies can feed off of and help to manifest themselves, or paranormal activity. And so there may be something to that as well.
And so, to that point, go ahead.
Do you go at night for a specific reason?
Typically, the reason we go at night is because, to your point earlier, these are commercial locations and they run tours during the day. And so we have had investigations during the day where we capture just as much evidence. So it's not this idea that the paranormal just comes out at night. You know, we have a lot of evidence, verifiable evidence that is happening during the day as well. The commercial locations we go at night because they are open during the day for general tours. And, you know, a lot of our equipment is just, it's easier to deploy during the night. So we use laser grids that will project across the room, and they don't show up during the day. So it's easier to do those at night. A lot of our equipment have different light arrays or alarms. It just looks cooler at night. So, you know, night's a good time to go.
You think these spirits are happy in this transitional phase?
I think some of them that we've communicated with are, you know, we have had some where they'll kind of express, you know, and I'll go to Hales Bar Dam for this example. Now Hales Bar Dam is in Tennessee. It has a series of tunnels that run underneath it. And again, it was in operation until I believe the 1960s. And some school kids would use these tunnels to get from one side of the river to the next. And at one point there was an accident and a couple of children were killed in these tunnels. And Michelle, one of our investigators, was down there, and she asked the question, why are you still here? Why haven't you moved on? And we captured a child's voice saying, I can't, I'm stuck. And so I think he knows that he's in that transitional phase, but for some reason he can't find whatever's next. He hasn't been given the light or the direction, for lack of a better term, to find out what's next. But, you know, a lot of the spirits that we communicate with are just kind of happy hanging around. And I think we sense this a lot in prisons and jails. I think because they are afraid of the retribution of what may come next. If there's any type of punishment in the next realm, they're very content to stay where they were. So we've talked to, or we feel that we've communicated with people in prisons and jails that are just content to hang out. You know, we'll put some cigarettes down there as trigger items, and we'll get a lot of communication because of that.
You know what's crazy here too? I read a book called So Live, So Dead by Marianne Wachowski, I think it was called. She's MarianneGhostbuster.com, I believe was her website at the time. She was the one that they based, I think, one of those television shows off, or about Ghost Whisperer or something. But she claimed that she was able to go into any place where there's a spirit and open up a portal to have them go through and then close behind them. So she was able to like help people transfer over to the other side. She claimed that all the people that were here in that transitional space were kind of stuck for the reasons that you just mentioned a moment ago, for maybe multiple reasons. Some they're afraid to move on because they've led bad lives. They're frightened, they're lost, or whatever. But do you guys believe, I said it again, do you ladies believe that that's possible, that you could open up a portal and give people direction to let those spirits move on to the next realm?
I don't so much. I believe that there are portals, and I do believe that mediums and psychics, some of them have that ability. But I don't think it's easy. I don't even think it has to be that extreme. I think just talking to them and telling them that it's okay to move on, it's okay to not be frightened, to move into that next realm, or if they have a message that they want to convey, and then they can move on. So I do think that people do have the ability to do that and help people to move on. It's just one of the things that we haven't done, or we don't do. But I do believe that people have the ability to do that. Absolutely. I believe as well. So you guys are a delight. And how do we find? Thank you. How do we find the Soul Sisters if people want to see more about you? Our website is www.soulsistersparanormal.com. And so anything you want to know about us, any events we have coming up, we've got a couple of conventions and paracons that we'll be at. Our next investigations will be there. So that's our website. And we're very active on Facebook under Soul Sisters Paranormal. And we have our YouTube channel under Soul Sisters Paranormal. So please like and subscribe, and just kind of watch our videos and let us know what you think.
Hey, PZ, maybe we can go on a trip with them one time.
Yes, come on.
I'd love to have the Soul Sisters come in. By the way, when you hear Soul Sisters, I'm thinking of like two girls coming, going, yo, 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 like you're like, what do you think? Aren't you thinking like those 80s, 90s music groups, like, Soul Sisters coming out,
Well, this will be our last show on YouTube.
Yeah, there you go. What I would love to see though is I'd love to see the Soul Sisters come on. We like bring them on for a special show and have them, and we follow along their whole entire, within an hour, just really follow along the whole entire expedition of their.
I think we should wear like a GoPro the whole time.
Just follow them along, and then just
we'll go live with y'all. Absolutely, yeah.
And then have them come on and talk about the experiences. That would be really wonderful. Hey, we appreciate you coming on. We're going to keep following you. I've been following you guys for a while, and I really love the music that you play in the back of your YouTube video. So it's a very nice kind of creepy-ish it's really cool music. But we appreciate you coming on. And once again, anyone wants to find it, go back and find out on Soul Sisters on Paranormal. Let's do it again. It's soulsistersparanormal.com, right?
Correct.
That's correct.
Correct.
And if you like what we see here, tap the like button. Please subscribe. We really appreciate that if you sit all the way through this with us. And we look forward to having you guys come back again. You are both a delight.
Thank you. Thank you. We enjoyed this. And we'll get you on an investigation if you want to go with us.
Can't scare me.
I want to go.
I want to go too.
Let's do it.
We go to Florida all the time. Thank you, ladies.
Okay.
And thank our guests. And I also want to thank Leland, our producer, and also our booker who books all the talent over there. Who is the booker? Mr. Sausage? John Galasso. There he is. A smile, a grin.
A grin, a laugh. That's life.
As a matter of fact,
he's the only guy making money around here. That's all.
That's right. We're not making. Nobody's making money. Well, you can buy that book. That book is wonderful. JustLaugh.org is the name of his website. And there's a book about humor in your life and how it makes us all a better person.
Please buy that book. John has to get new dentures. So
there you go.
You need some cash. And I hope there's no spirits. If there's any spirits watching me in the shower, don't believe what they tell you. It's not.
Bad taste in my mouth. You've seen spirits in the shower.